again, everybody. This is Mr. Gibson Guy. Thanks for coming by the channel. If you're new here, it would be great if you could hit the subscribe button. Everybody give me a like that watches this video, and leave a comment. Tell me what you think of it. I'm doing stuff a little bit different all the time, but I have concentrated a lot on photography lately. I'm now up to 55 videos, photography videos, and those are all concentrated on photography and photography equipment and cameras from 1975 to 1985, basically. And then there's a few a little before that and a few a little after that, but that's been mainly what I've been looking at. And that's a lot of videos on that subject, but I've got a lot of cameras, and I have a camera collection, and I have a camera store, and kind of things change from one to the other. And today I'm going to be looking at some different cameras, because what was going on was I was realizing that I've been kind of stuck in this decade from 75 to 85, and I need to make sure that I cover other time periods some, so I'm starting to do that. Now, I've shown on videos before that I do have digital cameras and a digital video, and of course because I'm making these videos, so I do mess with those. I'm not an expert on that, but I do digital photography as well as film photography, but my main interest is in film photography. And I've been basically talking about SLR cameras, single lens reflex 35mm, which really came into their own in the 60s and into the 70s and through the 80s, and then kind of converted over to autofocus, and then turn of in the new century or new millennium, we went all digital and did away with film. But film's still going out there, and I have been, since I've concentrated so much on the single lens reflexes, I decided I wanted to go back a little bit further. Before the single lens reflex camera came about, and we consider the Nikon F to be the beginning of the modern era for the SLR 35mm camera. There were some SLRs before then, Topcon and Pentagon or whatever it is, different companies, but they were kind of awkward and kind of Cyclops looking things, and we don't see much of those, because what happened when Nikon came out with the original F was they really got the single lens reflex camera right. But when we look before that, there were some real advances in photography, and photography was not as widespread, but still something that was of common interest to people on various levels, both beginners and more advanced. The cameras of the day for the 1930s and 1940s and through the 1950s was the rangefinder camera, and it was a 35mm camera. Originally, like some of the ones that you're going to see today, these cameras were kind of zone focusing. They give you like a focus area, and you would twist the focusing ring until you set it to where you thought the distance was to your subject, and that would be the focus. And then they got more advanced when they came with the coupled rangefinder, and the coupled rangefinder cameras had two windows on it, and each one would see a scene, but as you change the focus, it would bring these two images together, and when they lined up, then your image was in focus, and then they'd come apart when it was going out of focus. So that was how they initially got cameras, that the photographer got to set the focus on it, the pre-autofocus. And it worked to varying degrees because you had to have one superimposed on the other. So they had what they called a yellow spot on a lot of them, and it's like you had a yellow spot that was floating around, and you'd line it up in the viewfinder with the center picture to where the two locked in and they became one. But that was state of the art in the post-war era when the cameras started doing that. So I decided I'm going to take a little trip into history there with some older cameras. And to get started, what we're doing on today's video was I did kind of one of those mysteries, buy it and see what you get. And this was 4 vintage cameras for $32. And of course the price was not where they make their money. They make their money more on the shipping and the tax. They say they don't charge, but then they do charge. And like the shipping, I got 4 cameras, and so they charged me shipping for 4 cameras, even though they just packed them like it was 1 camera. And but it was kind of heavy for 1 camera, and these cameras are not super duper light. Let me put my glasses on so I can see what I'm going to do here. First of all, I got a duplicate here, 2 of them. That's this. Let's take a look here. See, this is an old camera. Now these are point and shoot cameras, really. They have 1 window on the top. They don't have a second window. Usually you'd have 2 windows, one here and one here, to get the 2 different views, and then you line them up for it to be in focus. But this does give you a bunch of controls here, like there. Okay, this cocks the shutter. See that there? And then you press the shutter button up here and watch this thing move. See it fly up? That shows you you've taken your picture. That's made the exposure. These are leaf shutter cameras. All these cameras you're going to be looking at, they don't have a reflex mirror, and they don't have a mirror going up and down, and so they're almost silent in use. You can take lots of pictures and nobody will ever hear it because it's so quiet. We have here this is the f-stops here, and it's f3.5 and f4 and f5.6 halfway, f8 halfway, f11, and then it goes, no, it doesn't go to 16. I don't know, maybe it does. I can't really see that. It's kind of old writing. And then we have here where we choose our shutter speed. You can see there's a little needle right here, points to different numbers. This is 300, 100, 50th of a second, 25th of a second, and B. And those are the shutter speeds that you have available for it. Now this camera, and I got 2 of them. This is the Kodak Pony 135. They came in nice leather cases. This was it's kind of like a standard general use photography Kodak camera. They started these in 1950 and they ran through, I think, just about 1960. As they gradually improved them. And this one, I think, is these bodies are bakelite, and some of them are, the tops are plastic on them. You can see it's basic bakelite here, and then it's got a little button you press here, and you can slide that down, and then you can open the back of the camera. And you see it's much like a 35mm SLR camera. This comes off. That's common back in those days, that the back would be removable. Got it back in here, and you slide this, get this little lip in there, and then it moves down, and you slide it back up. So it works a lot like a regular camera. Each one of these is a little bit different. I'll show you. This one, the lens is, oh, there it goes. the lens is movable. You can put it there and the lens stays retracted like that. Then when you want to use it, it's kind of like a bellows. You pull this out and you twist it into lock position like that. Now that's the way this Pony 125 or 135 works. This other Pony 135, it's the same model camera from a different year. This is a fixed lens. It doesn't turn anywhere, so it doesn't retract. It's got a little bit bigger knobs on it too. So there's two of these, and I looked these up. These sell for like $29.95. You can take pictures with them. They use regular 35mm film, and the one thing I noticed in all the stuff I've seen on YouTube about these older rangefinders or semi-rangefinder cameras is that everybody's shooting black and white film in them. Not too much about color. It's not supposed to make a difference, but in a minute we'll see that there are differences. I'm going to skip up to this first camera here. This is what really got my attention when I saw the cameras. The picture wasn't very good of the cameras. It was 4 cameras and they're all lined up like this. So you can't really see much of anything on the cameras. But this one really caught my eye. And if you take a look at it, this is a camera I think from 1960, but it looks really fantastic. It's really great looking camera. It doesn't have any, I don't know if it's stainless steel or what. It feels like it's kind of heavy, but there's not a mark on it. And this camera, why it got my attention is because it's not a Leica, and it's not a Nikon, and it's not a Canon, and it's not a Contax, but it has the generic look of a Leica M2 or M3 or a Contax 3A. It just kind of has that appearance of it. This is what I call a decoy camera. That means that it looks like a camera, and it even has some controls that make it act like a camera. See that? It's got a shutter and a reset, and it's got dials somewhat you can turn a little bit. They don't like turning, but they do turn, and it looks really good. And if you like to hang out with hipsters and you would like to really impress them, you don't say anything. You could just have this on a camera strap and just on your side, hanging off your shoulder, and don't say anything about it. And people might think that he's got a Leica. And it's not a Leica. This is called, look at this. This is a Helena 35X. And I looked this up, and people actually sell these things because they look very convincing. And it comes with its own book. It has a certificate for the optic. But if you look down at the bottom, right down here, you see it says made in Hong Kong. And that was not the China of modern day production. This was the China of production in the 1950s and 1960s. This is the kind of stuff that they flooded the market with. And it looks like it's a camera, and people would be convinced that it's a camera, but it's not really a camera. It doesn't really work. I mean, if it has a shutter, it has a leaf shutter that's 2 leaves, and it goes like that, just together and open. You can see the 2 of them crossing. If you ran a roll of film through this and tried with every single exposure, you might get one or two pictures that come out, but it would be completely by accident if anything actually was printable. It's not really a camera, but if somebody wants to fake people out, this would do it, especially people that are not very savvy into photography or wouldn't recognize, was that a Leica or was that a Contax? I don't know. I couldn't tell. Oh, it was a Canon? Yeah. But just initially seeing it, if you put it on the shelf, very impressive looking. So, what about this? Was this a big disappointment? Well, not really, actually, because of course you can see I kind of saved one more of my 4 cameras. You've seen 2 ponies and 1 Polina, but there's another Kodak here that I haven't showed you. And we're going to take a look at this one. This is kind of the ugliest camera, some people might say, but this one is actually a real camera. And I did some studying up on this. This is called the Kodak Signet 50. And this camera actually incorporates, if it's working, a selenium light meter. On the top of the camera, you can see it's got a window and it's got a viewfinder window, and this one isn't a coupled rangefinder, but it's you do focus with it. It's got a focusing knob on it and your distance screen and everything. Now, if you find the directions to this camera, you'll see one of the drawbacks to it is that it has the shutter lever here, but it only works when there's film in the camera. So you can't test it unless you put film in it. And I just got this, so I haven't put film in it. So I don't know that it works, but I think that it does, because the aperture seems to shut down fine and the shutter speeds seem to be able to be set. But there's one other thing about this. I test all these old cameras because there's stuff out there that is really going to get people's interest, and I discovered it with this one. Kodak, back in the during World War II, Kodak was doing a lot of research on optical glass. And of course there was a lot of research going on in other places about nuclear radiation too. And so Kodak kind of got their feet wet on the whole thing. I got my Geiger counter here, and I'm going to put this here. The ambient radioactivity is 0.07, but we'll look for up to 0.10, 0.8. I got this thing, 0.12. I got this to read up to 0.20 or 24. It went way up there as it reads radioactivity. That means that this has a thorium element in it, in the lens here for this one. And the thorium element in it, see, there's something at 18 there. Now it's down at 8. So it jumps up and down, but the thorium lens, it's something that they could put in the glass, which would give it a much better refractive index. And this is what I was talking about. These other cameras are really meant for black and white, but these Signets that have the thorium lens in it, oh boy, I just saw it flashing there. With the thorium lens in it, they will reproduce colors really well. One of the problems with these early cameras was the glass that they used, just plain window glass. They didn't really have that much for lens glass, but their early glass did not have a very good refractive index, and so your colors never came out very well. When they started putting in thorium, and that was before they did multi-coatings. Multi-coatings they kind of did to replace it because people eventually complained, you know, we can't be selling thorium to people. It's radioactive. It's not really of damaging levels, but what did we get up to? Oh yeah, we got up to 20 millisieverts there on this one. So it's got definitely a thorium lens inside here, one of the elements, and that enables you to take really great color photographs. If you see old pictures that they use color and they just kind of look pretty washed out and everything, that's because they didn't have thorium in the lens. But even though this is like a $40 camera, it actually takes, allegedly would take really nice color photos because of that. And some people who may have wanted to experiment with thorium glass and see what it does in your picture taking, you might want to consider picking up a Kodak Signet 50 because you're going to get a thorium lens in there. I have 2 thorium lenses in my collection for regular. I have one Pentax lens, a 50 millimeter f1.4, and a Minolta 28 millimeter f2.5, which has some thorium in it. It has low levels. The Pentax has high levels. Boy, that sets the thing off, the Geiger counter off. It'll start screaming real fast with that. And the Minolta is about the equivalent of the thorium in this one, so it's kind of a low thorium. I have another couple of lenses that I suspect may be very low thorium because they come up as just slightly radioactive, but you can't really tell if it's just the ambient radioactivity or if it's really coming from the lens, because it seems to be close to matched, maybe a little bit faster, but not much. This one, the wine letter's on the bottom. Isn't that cool? So, this camera, the Signet 50, is one that you can actually take color photos with, and they actually come out pretty good. The other the older lenses are going to be kind of washed out colors. So if you want to experiment with a thorium lens, this is where you might want to look first. For you don't just get the lens, you get the whole camera. This one's not removable, by the way. So that's my beginning look at these things. So I'm interested in seeing how it goes. I got these cameras yesterday and I've studied up on them and manipulated the controls and see which ones work and which ones don't work. It has a whole different bellows unit from this other pony here. The twist and put away. So those are some 1950s cameras, and that's just the very basic introduction. I think I'm going to put them up on my store for $10, $20, something like that. Maybe they'll sell. People want those. Somebody will want these. I've seen that these people sell these all the time for $50, and if you know what you're getting into, then you realize what you're getting into it for. But it was kind of cool to compare. You take pictures with a camera that looks like this, and your friend has a regular SLR or modern camera, and you take the pictures, and then you compare your pictures, and yours look the same as a modern camera. That's pretty good for something that looks like it's should have been put out to pasture a long time ago. It's kind of ugly camera, but the idea is you want pretty pictures, not pretty camera. Pretty camera, go with this. The fake Leica. All right, I hope you found that interesting. I was taking it in a different direction. We found some silver lining to a rather cloudy day, some good things there. And if you learned something or you have some questions about something, drop me a message in the comments below. And until the next time, this is Mr. Gibson Guy. I'm out of here. I'll see you later.